Winning. I've outsmarted you on a number of levels. Beta. Well, actually, King's not. Beta.
That was a hot mess inside a dumpster fire, inside a train wreck.
Keep your mouth shut. I'm going to go in there and slap your face.
You know, we're going to rise like the Phoenix. And
Get in my limousine. Ride on 85. Get in my Learjet. Woo!
Welcome to the Asterisk Conclusion Podcast. You're joined here by the King himself. And I'm partnered up right now with the main man, Grizz.
Woo.
How are you doing, Grizz?
I'm doing better. I apologize to the league. I've been really sick coming around the block. Speaking of clearing my throat, but I missed out on a wonderful night. It sounds like a little bit of a drama, and it was more spectacular than I would have thought. I woke up and my brother and my dad filled me in a little bit later that afternoon, and it sounds like the league had a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a good time. At least you had a good excuse. Ryan had no excuse and missed it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was terrible. Late as usual. So slow, Ryan Burns.
Well, it's fun because I was looking at the calendar. Training camp starts literally in 3 weeks, but preseason football games don't start because they're down from 4 games to 3. That doesn't start for another 2 months. But I'm sure we've already started our picks in the league, and we know where we're picking. So it's not too early to start your mock drafts. We know what players are going to be on certain teams. And as we discussed, what I would like to start doing is just break down the position groups in this podcast. Let's just look at the top quarterbacks, the top 10 that we have based on a consensus, a ranking we have through a magazine. And you can look online. They're kind of the same, but there's a few quarterbacks I would throw in the top 10 that I don't agree with in this magazine, so to speak. It's Lindley's Fantasy Football Magazine. And I don't know if you've tried, Coop. Have you tried a mock draft yet?
I've done a couple. I wanted to see kind of what falls or get a good feel for what might be around where I'm at. But yeah, I've done a couple.
I mean, it's good to kind of project. It's something like, the apps are great because you're just sitting at a restaurant waiting for your food, you're bored or something. You can just, just sitting around anywhere. I mean, you can knock a mock draft out in 5-10 minutes and okay, it is kind of fun in a way. It's like a game, like playing a spades or hearts on your app or something. But let's get to it. So we talked about this guy a little bit. He had a pretty decent year last year, and I thought the Giants, personally, in my own opinion, blew it. But in this magazine, which I think is a little bit shocking, they have Daniel Jones at number 10 in quarterback rankings. And honestly, that's the kind of guy, if that's your starting quarterback in fantasy football in the National Cup, you're not going to win the league.
No, definitely not. I'm actually kind of surprised they have him at number 10. I wouldn't pick him at all.
He's got a little savviness to him. I mean, he had a terrible corpse right last year at the receiver group. It's been slightly improved, but they really a lot of money. But from a fantasy perspective, he's not awful. He's just too vanilla for me to want to have. How do you feel?
Yeah, there's no upside for me for him. Like, I wouldn't want him on my team. Like, I would rather have, there's to me, I'm either going for something like Steady Eddie that you're guaranteed points or swinging for the fences for upside. And I don't think he's either.
Let me ask you a question. Think about this seriously. Rank them 1, 2, 3. We're talking about the 10th position. Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Jared Goff. I'm
actually going Jared Goff, Geno Smith, Daniel Jones in that order.
I agree with that. So it's funny. Geno Smith actually got some fantasy football value, and he may be one of those guys that people sleep on this year that can win you some big money. Like, he's one of those guys that, we all scratched him off last year. Like, oh, he's worthless trash. And he went to the Pro Bowl last year. So that was a shocker. I think that was the biggest shocker of the entire NFL season last year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, there's always like maybe a surprise or two at quarterback that you're just not planning on. I just don't see Daniel Jones being that surprise at all.
Okay, so the next one I have on a list here is Mr. Cowboy Dak Prescott. And he's been pretty popular in Ashton Cup fantasy circles. How do you feel about Dak this year?
I mean, he's a solid fantasy guy. I make that very clear. I would never want him for my actual for the Carolina Panthers to be their starting quarterback, but like for your fantasy team, he's a solid player. I think this year, because correct me if I'm wrong, last year he played a little bit hurt. They really just had CD Lamb kind of, but they've upgraded, like gave him Brandon Cooks. I think they've upgraded overall a little bit. I would say Dak could have like a really nice year. And so if they have him like at 9, I think that's a very fair ranking for him. I think he's going to be a 10 quarterback.
I agree. McCarthy loves to pass the ball. Tony Pollard's another conversation. He's interesting because he's the sole setback. And they drafted the Kansas State running back Vaughn, which I actually like a little bit in fantasy circles late in the draft. But Dak to me is a guy who could be a top 3 ranked quarterback because he could throw for over 5,000 yards, but he could also drop back and just have – 4,000 yard passing season, missed 3 or 4 games because he does have a little bit injury concern and just have an average touchdown to interception ratio. So he's not overly exciting, but I think 9 is a really good spot for him because he's a little bit, he's been in the league. He's long in the tooth, and I trust him. I just don't think his upside is like elite, but I wouldn't be shocked to see. I don't think he'll be 3, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him be top 5. Like, on the cusp of that.
Maybe. He definitely has that potential. He has potential. So like that's a player like unless you get one of the stud quarterbacks at the top, waiting for a Dak isn't the worst move.
And Dak in our league, that's the kind of guy we talk about this all the time. Like that's a guy who could go around 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 or something. You just don't know what's going to happen with quarterbacks in our league. So that's what kind of interests me in him is where does he go?
Yeah, good value. I think you'll get out of Dak. I think the next quarterback on that list, you have T. Law, Trevor Lawrence himself.
He's hot commodity right now, in my opinion. He is one of those guys. It's kind of like buyer beware to me because it's like he can do no wrong, and I think people are viewing him as like one of the top 2 or 3 players in the league under 24, 25 years old, and in fantasy circles in your 3rd year. And he did play well last year in spurts. He came on strong late. He wasn't great early.
Mm-hmm.
Would I take him and put him up there with the Burrows and Jalen Hurts? No. But people are, I think, and they're expecting that. I would just say back off a little bit, be patient again. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a similar season from last year, but I want to see more consistency because a lot of his games were all over the place last year.
That's true. I think is this his 3rd year, right?
Yep.
That's typically a good breakout year for quarterbacks. It's tail of the tape. If they break out, it's typically their 3rd year, or you find out they might not be that be duds. But
it's hard not to like him. Like I like him, but how high do you want to take him? Like, are you going to take him around 4 or 5? I'll pass.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it's all depends on where quarterbacks fall. But I'm looking at the quarterbacks ahead of him. I mean, there's not really without jumping too far ahead or anything, there's not really a quarterback ahead of him like that I would take Trevor Lawrence over, is what what I'm trying to say. Like, so I think where he's at is fine. Actually, if anything, there might be 1 or 2 fantasy guys, and we can get to this later on, that were ranked outside the top 10 that I might take over Trevor Lawrence. And,
there's 3 guys or 2 I like a lot that could have huge years, and he's just not getting love. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So we both like T. Law. Jacksonville did some good things, and I think the Jacksonville Jaguars will provide an entertaining year, and it all rests on his shoulders. And I think there'll be some slight progression, but I wouldn't hope for the best if you draft Trevor Lawrence pretty high. I would kind of sit around and hopefully wait. But quarterbacks in our league, you just never know. What Patrick Mahomes went round 4 in the Ashton Cup, and he won the Cup last year. I was so mad about that. Still speaking of. I'm
Yeah.
like, how did Patrick Mahomes go to round 4? The whole league should be slapped on the wrist.
That is true. But let's actually, speaking of quarterbacks taken before Patrick Mahomes last year, this is one I took.
Yep.
Justin Herbert, actually.
I had a crush on him last year.
Hmm.
I still think he is probably, if not the best quarterback in football, the second best quarterback. I would take him over Josh Allen. I think he's got an elite skill set, his ball placement. I think his wide receivers, Allen and Williams, are just slow and lethargic. And Eckler's good, but I think if you gave him some better skill set players, he's a talent. I really think Herbert is awesome, and I like that wide receiver they got out of TCU, Quentin Williams. He's going to be a popular guy on draft day. We all know that. But Herbert, again, like we expected huge things out of him last year. You traded him, a big disappointment for you, I know, and that hurts because he is really good. But sometimes the fantasy football numbers and overall talent don't translate very well. I love Herbert, but again, I think he's actually ranked right where he kind of should be.
Yeah, I would agree. I might debate against the next guy. I think maybe he should be ranked one more spot up. But yeah, like his weapons are so inconsistent. I mean, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are either banged up or old or slow or all the above. So getting that TCU wide receiver is huge. I think Herbert. Well, I think he's ranked kind of where he's supposed to be, maybe one more spot up, but that's debatable.
He's a really good player. I think if you put him on a team with elite wide receivers, he would just be disgusting. But let's get to the next, my man, Justin Fields, again, like Trevor Lawrence. I'm surprised, actually, even being a Bears fan, to see Justin ranked this high. But I will tell you, I did have Josh Allen last year and Justin Fields, and I benched Josh Allen 1/3 of the season for Justin Fields. And because Justin, he was rushing the ball, and people are like, well, he doesn't pass that much. And I mean, he was skilled. I mean, I was playing him in games where he's scoring 3 or 4 touchdowns and scoring me 40 points several times over the course of the year. So, and they're much better offensively. I think his ranking is actually looking at the quarterbacks, but you got to be careful, man. Like, I never put any hope in the Chicago quarterbacks. Like I said, the same thing applies to him and Trevor Lawrence. Just kind of be careful, tread lightly, and you want to see progression and consistency. But in terms of fantasy football, I think Justin's going to have some inconsistent games, and he'll have like 3 or 4 games where he's just going to blow up.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably flip him with like Herbert. I'd probably rank Herbert above Justin Fields. But,
yeah, no problem with that at all.
Fields, I mean, from a fantasy standpoint, could be very nasty. I mean, he could be his upside's huge because like you were mentioning, all the points he got last year and kind of last half of the season, second half of the season or so. He did that all with his legs. He didn't throw the ball that much. And frankly, that's because the Chicago Bears receivers were
awful.
Yeah, they were some of the worst things I've ever seen in my life, but they've upgraded that a little bit. And so, I think the potential's there. I mean, that's an upside pick. Swing for the fences. He could win you the league. He could also lose you the league. So
again, that's where like him, you gotta be careful with quarterbacks, and our league's pretty savvy because we're always. Last year I bitten Allen early, and I don't regret that actually because the first 8 weeks I was playing Allen, he was guaranteed 35, 40 points almost every week. And then the Bills got cold, and then I just put Fields in, and that's the only thing that kept me afloat, sadly enough. I had an awful year because of, thank you, Jonathan Taylor. But, I mean, I had great quarterback play, and if you have a great quarterback in fantasy football, it is a complete luxury.
Yeah.
But it's all about value where you get them.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
And anybody in our league can have it, Coop. No matter what pick you have, everybody in our league has the chance to get Allen, Mahomes, and these guys. It's just how high do you want to go get them?
No, you're right. You are absolutely right.
Who do you got next?
We have Lamar Jackson.
Boo. Not a fan.
I will say this: this magazine here has him ranked fifth, and I was looking online at my fantasy website, and they have him ranked fifth. So that's about as consistent as you can get.
The thing about Lamar, I mean, he's very comparable to Fields in a certain aspect, the athletic ability. I don't think he throws the same type of ball. He's much skinnier, more frail. He's just got bum players there, honestly, like Odell Beckham. Yuck.
Yeah,
I mean, they got great coaching. The whole team's very physical, and he's going to be, I mean, he's going to have decent numbers, but I mean, I'm just, I wouldn't mind having like Lamar Jackson, like in the middle round. I'm not drafting him around 4 or 5, like that kind of. That's where he's slated to go, and I'll let somebody else take him. Like, I'm just not a huge fan. Like, he's also missed some games, and he got paid a ton of money, and he's just one of those players. I'm like, there's just something about him. I'm just waiting for this guy to fall flat in his face and just have like an average, kind of like Russell Wilson year.
yeah. And I'm not a huge Lamar Jackson fan. Again, another player I wouldn't want for the Panthers, but maybe from a fantasy team, maybe. My big concern with Lamar is actually just more like attitude with him.
Exactly.
I could just see, I don't know, he stubs his toe and he's like, you know what? I got my contract. I'm done, and sit out for 10 games or something. Or like, he is a total wild card as far as off the field drama. And I don't know if I'd want that on my fantasy team either. Like,
He's a very awkward player. It's kind of like, I mean, you can't compare him to Patrick Mahomes, but people do because of the tight end position. But I mean, what he basically does is throw the ball to Mark Andrews 15 times a game because he doesn't throw outside. And he's got Zay Flowers and Odell Beckham there. I don't think that translates to success in the way I think about quarterbacks. I don't want Zay Flowers or Odell Beckham on my football team at all. Or what's the other guy they have in Baltimore? There's another guy. He hasn't panned out either.
Rashard
But
Bateman.
yeah, like somebody else can have him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'll let somebody else roll some dice with some Ravens players this year. They're just, I mean, Lamar Jackson's just toxic king. I mean, that whole, like you say, he's been oft injured the past 3 years. He's just kind of, there's a dark cloud around him, and I just don't want any part of that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that way. And the other guy next on our list, which I like a lot, and he's, I think, in the light of the great quarterbacks in the league, hasn't won the big one. He's very consistent. He's going to throw it 50 times a game. He's not like a huge fantasy stats guy. Like he's not going to run for maybe 200 yards in the season, but he's just going to throw a lot, and you can expect to get 30 points out of him every single week. He's got good receivers, and that's Mr. Joe Burrow, the Bengals. Like,
Yeah.
you can draft him and know that you're going to have a good, consistent season. But again, if somebody wants to draft Joe Burrow, right after like Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts kind of like pretty high, go ahead. I want to wait for somebody like Burrow, but I'd like to have him on my team.
Yeah. Burrow is still not what I would call one of those players I would draft high. Like, I mean, I'd draft him like fourth quarterback, but I wouldn't go in the top 5 rounds for him either. Like,
Yeah, I just don't think he's in that level of this excitement. Like, he's not going to run. He's just not fantasy gold. He's very consistent, very good. He's young. He's got good receivers, but he just misses that sparkle. There's just something missing.
well, I think a few knee injuries has kind of like hampered his mobility some. That still doesn't mean he can't be like uber productive from the pocket, but
Yeah,
you are right. He misses that little bit of like
something.
Something that just is going to like, whoa, that just like he scrambled around in the backfield and just got me a touchdown. So I don't know.
Yeah.
So he's not going to do that.
Yeah, I never hear in fantasy circles or football circles, you don't hear people sitting around talking about how amazing Joe Burrow is. He just he's there, he's good, and everybody knows it. It's just he doesn't get that love, and I don't know what it is, but Joe Burrow is a good player. I wouldn't mind having him on my team. It just depends where he falls.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think, yeah, I agree. I think fourth quarterback overall, I would, that's where he fits nicely.
So let's
Next,
talk about our next guy. Yeah, go ahead.
the next guy on their list does have a little bit more sparkle. Jalen Hurts from the Eagles. The how much did he sign for? Like 180 million or something?
He was hot last year. He's gonna be hot this year. He's got two really good receivers. AJ Brown blew up. Devontae Smith's nice.
Mhm.
I think the Eagles are just going to absolutely destroy the entire NFC. And I think Jalen Hurts will have a better year than last year. I would even consider taking Jalen Hurts over people like Josh Allen this year.
Yeah.
I have him ranked as my two quarterback because I mean Allen's awesome, but
Mhm.
I worry about Buffalo. They're kind of I think last year was a big year for them, and they kind of got flaky and some of the drama they've had. I want to see Buffalo pop and they got a lot of talent. They just I don't know if they're one of those teams that has a lot of talent that can get over that hump to really go to the Super Bowl or get into that AFC Championship game. And the Bengals have shown it, and Joe Burrow has shown it. Like I think Jalen Hurts has got that chip on his shoulder. He's nasty, and there's not a thing he really can't do. I would love to have Jalen Hurts in my team, but again, where does he fall in our draft? Who knows?
Jalen Hurts is one of those players I think I would go for in the top 5 rounds, possibly. He has more of that caliber play. Also, you got to think they got brought in what's his face Swift, the running back. He catches ridiculous number of
Yeah.
balls. He's basically another receiver.
They got Rashard Penny there. They're loaded.
Yeah, I mean they're going to come up with some crazy running quarterback offense thing. They might be running the option at some point. I wouldn't shock me. Like
Yeah.
like they're going to do some pretty cool things with Hurts, and his receivers are great. I think he has potential to be the number one quarterback in the league point wise.
It's crazy because 2 years ago I didn't like him. I didn't like him coming out of college. I think the offensive coordinator in the system, Philadelphia, has done a very good job of drafting. They put him in a comfortable place where he could grow and he's blossomed and he's what he is he's a leader and he's got a solid head on his shoulders. He's very confident.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping like somebody like Fields can learn from that because I think they're very similar style play. But they brought in AJ Brown and it really opened things up.
Oh yeah, definitely. Took some pressure off Devontae Smith. Yeah, their GM's been just grade A, doing amazing work there. I wish the Panthers had their GM. But yeah, I like Hurts. And like you say, I would maybe put him if I would rather put him in the top spot over Allen, or I would definitely put him over Allen right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. They have Patrick Mahomes in here too, and I think Patrick Mahomes, and for the next 5 years, I'm taking him number one until somebody tells me I'm
Yeah.
wrong. But let's just go. Let's just talk about Mahomes at two here. He's the best player in the game. He is
Mhm.
the Michael Jordan. He is your Wayne Gretzky. He is the man, and I don't think there's a thing he cannot not do. And I think their wide receiver talents is going to shock some people. They don't have these high draft picks or big name guys. I think Sky Moore they drafted last year from Central Michigan. He's going to step up and have a really nice year. And I think Tony they drafted or got in the trade from the Giants, who's an ex first round draft pick, I believe.
Mhm.
He's got a lot of talent. He's very quick. He just can't stay healthy. But until Kelsey, I wonder what the Chiefs' offense would be like without Kelsey. I mean, they got crap running backs and Pachenko and Hilaire. Hilaire's garbage. I mean, it's all Mahomes. He's pure magic. And I think if they actually got better players around him, I mean, the sky would be the limit. And I still don't think they have great skill position players, but I'm still taking Patrick.
Oh yeah.
He's not a top three quarterback in our draft.
Yeah.
After last year, I think he's guaranteed to go to top 3 rounds.
I mean, the man turns water into wine. I
He's
mean,
magic.
yeah, like yeah, you're right. I mean, Kelsey's by far their best skill player, in my opinion, and he's up there in age. I mean, who knows when the drop off is going to happen? But dude, Mahomes is going to make anyone look good. I mean, we could be out there at receiver, and we just look all of a sudden like all pros. I don't even understand it. He should be the number one quarterback until, like you say, something happens. But yeah, and I think I'm taking Mahomes the first quarterback off the board. So
Yeah, I think somebody's going to take him late round 2 or maybe even higher this year. I don't see him lasting long because he is that good. And if you are confident in your drafting ability later in the draft and you think you can get running backs and wide receivers later, because you could draft Mahomes from round 2 and you can come back in round 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, and you can get 2 or 3 of his receivers and Pachenko, the running back, and you can get all Chiefs and it may be a home run derby. Depends how confident you are.
yeah, points bonanza. Well, let's jump on number 1 then. I mean, we've kind of touched on who it's going to be the past couple of picks, and definitely bashed some Josh Allen. But Josh Allen at number 1.
He was killing it for me to start the year off, and he is a big, big man. He reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger, but quicker, or maybe Ben in his younger years. But when he gets moving, he's not like he's really fast. He can move well. It's just like he's just such a big guy, and he breaks arm tackles so easily. So he mixes it up very well. He didn't really have a soft game, but Josh Allen's kind of like all or nothing. When he plays division teams, he kind of gets quiet, like the Patriots, but every now and then he'll just have a 50-point game. And when he goes off, it's fun to watch, and you want him on your team. And that's where his value is. I wonder where you would rank him. Like, where would you put Josh Allen if Diggs was not on the team and something happened?
Oh, if Diggs is not on the team?
Yeah, if he's gone, if they dump him or something happens, he holds out. I don't know if I put Josh Allen in my top 5 if Diggs is gone.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. Yeah, I mean, who else do they have at like receiver? It's garbage.
They drafted a tight end in round 1, which Knox, which I still don't understand.
I mean, can't have too many tight ends.
They're taking a page out of Ryan Pace's ex-GM's Bears playbook, where he had like 10 tight ends on the team at one time. What a moron!
That's exactly who you want to follow.
But I mean, Josh Allen. He's not going to lose you the league. He's guaranteed in our league to be a top 4 round selection. I think somebody like, and it was funny because Drill's drafting Bills players, we bust his chops for it. I don't see that happening this year. But Josh Allen is a stud, and how's his do you see him going up or down in his stats this year?
I would probably say down slightly. Like I said,
I'm down just a little bit. I want to see if he can keep it up. He played good, but they did not end the season on a good note last year, so that's probably why I feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but I just think he'll be down a little bit. That's still going to be better than most of the quarterbacks out there. Again, I have like Mahomes number 1, Hurts number 2, Allen 3. Those are my top 3. So, I mean,
I hear you. So that's our top 10, or really the consensus top 10. And we mentioned some other players and quarterbacks. And let's talk about 2 quarterbacks. You get one, I get one.
okay.
Take one quarterback who you think could have a top 5 year.
I'll tell you mine. And there's a little bit of a roll of the dice. I like Tua, actually. Tua Tagovailoa. I don't know if he'll be top 5, but they have him outside the top 10 on this at 11. So it's not a huge reach, but I like him better than some of these other guys, mainly because of his receiver talent. You get Tyreek Hill and Waddell.
Think if Herbert had those 2 guys.
Oh, dude, he'd put up.
He'd be unconscious.
I mean, it's crazy, but like it's really more so like the talent that the Dolphins have around Tua. I know for me, and he was actually doing really well before he got hurt. Now, once he started getting hurt, the wheels started coming off. Now, that's a huge risk with him. But I
I
like
hear you. I wouldn't mind having him as my starting quarterback. You could draft him later, like
yeah,
rounds 9, 10, 11, 12, and you can plug him in with that receiving core and that offense. And the head coach is the offensive coordinator. He's going to put up numbers.
yeah. He's
So I
good
hear
for
you.
30, easy. I mean, if healthy and in the game, he's good for 30. So you can draft him later on. He might be your starting quarterback until he gets hurt, as long as you have a solid one to plug in after him.
You heard it here. That could be fantasy gold. That could win you the cup, maybe.
Maybe.
And a guy I have who I think I don't understand how, like, I do a mock drafts. He barely gets drafted. And I think he could be the top 2 or 3 quarterback in the entire league. He's 2 years removed from the NFL MVP, is Aaron Rodgers. He's going from an organization with Dobbs and Watkins as his best wide receivers that were drafted as rookies. They
Yeah.
knew nothing about the game. And the Packers last year were abysmal. And they got Rodgers has got a little bit of that weirdo factor, and he's a little bit of the cancer to the organization. But the Jets are a really good football team. They have a good defense, and they have really good wide receivers. Wilson will go round 2 or 3, I guarantee you, maybe round 2. And I don't understand how in these mock drafts, Aaron Rodgers, and I hate the Packers and I hate Rodgers, but there's no reason why Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, like Tua, like Daniel Jones, garbage. But I mean, Aaron Rodgers and Tua should definitely be pushing the top 10 minimal.
Yeah. I mean, Rodgers, you're right. I don't know. I don't think he'll be top 5, but like,
Would you be shocked if he was? I wouldn't be. Look what Brady did his first year in Tampa. He blew it up.
I know. I still though, like, it's still the Jets. I mean, they have more talent and they have more ups or momentum going up, but yeah, I think he'll have a good year, but I think he's going to be more into the like fall into like the top 10 range versus the top 5. But you're right. I don't know why he's outside the top 10. Like,
it's funny because we just mentioned about really 15 quarterbacks in this podcast. We haven't mentioned Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Derek Carr, Matt Stafford. Those are pretty big names, but it just goes to show you how things and trends go. And we have 12 teams in our league. We all want a really good quarterback. And you can win in our league with an average, but you don't want to get a quarterback outside really the top 10 is money. And really, we want like the teams that typically do well are teams that do have a top 4 or 5 quarterback.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, the thing is with quarterbacks, you can find like some gems in the later rounds, like a huge upside. People that, I mean, like I'm going to throw a name out there that's not even sniffing top 10, maybe even top 20 is Kenny Pickett. I mean, I'm not saying he'll be on my team, but second year guy, he's got some talent around him.
If you want to carry 2 quarterbacks, I mean, he's got a lot of momentum because the Steelers, he's picking up the bill where Ben left off. And I think what makes him look so good is the fact that Trubisky sucks so bad.
Yeah.
So, I want to see what I mean, this is going to be a great year. There's so many things going on. And, Jordan Love, you got Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson. I mean, there's some new faces, and I want to see what's going to happen this year. And like, I'm really excited, honestly, to see what Aaron Rodgers does with the Jets. That whole division is, I mean, the Jets and the Dolphins are the worst team in that division to sit. Well, I mean, actually, I forgot the New England's in there, but my Lord, I would hate to be in that division. Compare the AFC North to like the NFC South. It's like polar opposites.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, we got a couple more minutes. Is there anything that you want to wrap up with?
So if I had to take a sleeper in this year, like a guy, like a dark horse, a guy who I think is going to jump off and shock people every year, it's somebody. And I'm just saying this is something that nobody would expect. And just you think about something odd like Geno Smith. I'm going to throw out 2 names who I think could be crazy, just blow up, you just never saw coming. I think the first one's going to be Jordan Love for the Packers. I mean, he's been on the bench for 3 years. What can he do? I think somebody's going to take a flyer on him late in the draft and that could be like the Kurt Warner type of thing where this guy just throws for 4,000 yards and wins the division. I hope it doesn't happen, but that's what the competition and sports is all about. And the other one I kind of want to see play quarterback at Cincinnati now with the Falcons. And I do like the Falcons roster. I know you Panthers fans don't want to hear that, but I really want to see what Ritter does, Desmond Ritter. And those are the two quarterbacks I'm kind of really gravitating towards, and I want to see what they do this year.
No, I agree. I'll tell you what, I'd rather have Jordan Love than Daniel Jones on my team. Like, I'm being serious.
I like it.
No, hot take there, dude. I mean, his upside's far more than Daniel Jones, in my opinion. I'd rather like find me a steady Eddie quarterback, and then like take a flyer on Jordan Love later rounds.
And the other one, the weirdest quarterback I think this year, the weirdest player probably in all of fantasy football is Kyle Murray. I mean, Kyle Murray has been a high pick the last 2 years at least, and he is going undrafted in almost every format, and that is to me kind of crazy.
Well, he is garbage. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here, Grizz.
All right.
Want to say thank you for your time, and to all our listeners out there, don't forget, we're right and you're wrong.
And got this sucks.
Got this sucks.